Welcome to Behind Beloit. I'm your host, Ellie Anderbyrne. This show is an opportunity to slow down, ask better questions, and get to know the people and systems that make Beloit tick. Today we are joined by Tonya, Johann, and Robert Douglas. They join us today from the City of Beloit's Parks and Recreation Department. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
So fun to have you here. Why don't we just start with sort of the big picture. What does Parks and Rec do for the city? What's the overall mission? What's it trying to accomplish for the City of Beloit's residents?
Sure. So I would say really for the overall park system, it's about helping people enjoy life. Really looking at the opportunities that we have to get people out into our park system, to be active, to have community, to recreate, and to participate in some of our programs and our facilities. Unfortunately, in the day in which we live, we have a lot of uncertainty. It's really important to us to provide safety and accountability in our park system where people can go out and they can feel that sense of community and safety. One thing that we did do last year to help support that is we hired a park ranger. So our park ranger essentially is not a police officer, but that park ranger goes throughout our park system, just educating our various visitors or renters of our shelters, making them aware of our different rules and our regulations that we have within our park system. A lot of times we have individuals that rent our facilities that just don't know the certain rules that we have. So it's really about that engagement and making them aware of things and getting them active and using more of our parks within our park system as well.
So talk about, you say shelters, you say parks. What's all the different things that are part of your department that people enjoy?
Sure. So we have a lot that's going on in our department. So we actually have our parks. We have our trail system.
Okay.
We have a skate park. We have a dog park. We have 39 parks and 24 playgrounds. We have our Grinnell Senior Center. We have 2 cemeteries. That surprises individuals a lot, but that's under Parks and Recreation. But we have 2 cemeteries, East Lawn and Oakwood, that we oversee. And then just a lot of amenities that people use, like our skate park. We have a pool. We have a golf course. Is there anything else that I'm missing that?
Wooden Park, so we can't forget the pickleball course.
Oh, that's, yes.
Tennis courts, we have the lagoon in which people rent out paddle boats and kayaks and stuff like that. All the parks, and then we rent out, baseball fields, soccer fields, and things of that nature.
All the fun stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we like to bring the fun.
Yeah. It's after hearing, in different weeks we talk to water resources and learn about, getting clean water, important things, but it's not as fun as pickleball and swimming and golf. That's really great. So talk to me about it, but what does it take to manage the day-to-day of that, such a big set of services across the city?
Sure. I think people would be quite surprised because there's a lot of planning that goes in behind the scenes. Not only planning, but properly training of our staff. Like many organizations, we continue to struggle with keeping full-time and seasonal positions filled. So we're constantly ensuring that our staff is properly trained so that they're safe out in the field. We have mowing schedules. We have a very new leadership team. Myself, I'm only in this October will be my 3rd year. Robert, in his position as our supervisor, is 1 year in. We have a rec coordinator that was just hired on yesterday, which I think Robert is very glad to finally have some support there. So we're very excited about that. And then we also have our Parks and Forestry supervisor that is also new in his role because our Parks and Forestry supervisor just retired. So I think it's a struggle of maintaining all of our assets and our division as a whole, but how we kind of balance that is we all work as a team. So we have various divisions within our department, but we have a lot of help that gets provided from different teams, like our horticulture team, our buildings and grounds team. They focus pretty closely on all of our parks and our playgrounds, our facilities, and different things that need to be fixed and maintained, because we are struggling, like a lot of others coming back from COVID, of aging infrastructure and just our overall park system and deferred maintenance.
Right. So talk about that a bit. How do you balance within your department the lawn that needs to be mowed today and the playground that needs to be fixed 10 years from now? And how do you think about the short term and the long term? What are the goals you're trying to achieve there?
Sure. So we actually completed a 5-year CORP plan.
Okay.
And that is a comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. That plan basically went through our whole park system and gave recommendations on things that we should try to accomplish within a 5-year span. Now, are we going to be able to accomplish all of those things within that plan? More than likely not. Because again, coming back from COVID, all the deferred maintenance that we have, it's going to be a very difficult thing to do. However, what it does do is it gives us a roadmap. So it allows us to look at our park system and look at different schedules that we have. Historically, at least since I've been in my position, and I know for the past few years, we have replaced playgrounds. So we have aging playgrounds. Obviously, that's a safety concern. We have our playgrounds that are looked at on an annual basis. We have our insurance provider that comes out, civic, that goes out with our staff members and inspects those playgrounds. But really what we try to do is we focus on the things, obviously, that is, a safety concern. And then also looking at things that the larger scope of things, like the aging infrastructure that we have. One example of that is our pool. So our pool is aging infrastructure that we've currently decided to do a pool feasibility study for. That feasibility study, we just actually did a survey. It's huge in the park system that when we're doing anything, we get the community involved. So we want to make sure that we're gathering their feedback, gathering their input. We are serving them. We can come up with ideas, and I might think it's a great idea, but then there's reasons why the community may think that it's not a great idea. And then we have to pivot. And we've done that. I mean, for an example, with the playgrounds, there is a level of concern and want to have a more accessible and inclusive playground. That is my goal prior to my retirement, is looking at that. But it's very costly to do that. So we're looking at other opportunities of what we can do to incorporate those things into our playgrounds so that all can come to play, because that's generally our goal. We were able to do that last year, partially with our over $1.5 million playground, which was Turtle Island. That does have a pour in place, so it is accessible. We have a handicap accessible merry-go-round that's there, an accessible swing that is there, inclusive boards for individuals with sensory issues that can also participate in that play. So it was really exciting to incorporate some of those aspects into that playground, but ultimately I'd really like to look at the community's feedback on a location to do an all-inclusive playground at some point. And obviously, if there's the funding to be able to do that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a bit. I'm sure like every government department and every other organization, there's only so many dollars and so many priorities. How do you think about those trade-offs?
There is.
I know you're getting community feedback. You're probably getting feedback from other offices, the budget people, the finance people. How does all that come together, and how do you try to make the best decision?
Yeah, so if I had the decision to make that decision, I'd obviously approve all of our requests to start off with. However, I don't, and we have a lot of essential services that the city is looking at supporting, police and fire, to name two of those. So it's very difficult when you're up against, a lot of requests in a calendar year on where that funding gets allocated. Ultimately, it's up to an internal committee that takes in all of our capital improvement requests. They ultimately make the decision on what gets approved. When things do finally get approved, which typically for Parks and Rec, it's 3 to 5 projects in a year. And what we have done and have seen is the playground replacements. Within the past 2 years in my position, we did have additional funding through ARPA. So the nice
So
thing,
talk about ARPA. What's that?
So the American Rescue Plan Act,
Okay.
which is basically funding that we received, and our city council determined where that funding was going to be allocated. They allocated quite a bit in our park system. That is where we were able to do that playground replacement at Turtle Island. We were also able to allocate some of those funds to our playgrounds. We were able to replace 6 playgrounds in 2 years. Typically, we're looking at probably 1 to 2 playgrounds in a year, which that's what we will be doing this year is 2 playgrounds this year, mural and field. We have Vernon Park that we just built an open air pavilion and installed a restroom there. Turtle Creek, we've removed the bathhouse that was there. We've installed a playground there, and that park itself has an overall plan that was put together prior to me even being in my position, which is like a 5 to 6 year phase plan, and we're on phase 2 of that right now.
Okay.
So a lot of the times too, that's what we're looking at doing within our corp is going back, looking at some of the larger parks that we can do phasing in, because not everything gets approved right away. And if it doesn't get approved, then we just continue to make the ask, you know, in out years.
So what would surprise people? What's something that people don't know that might be a little sneaky behind the scenes thing about maintaining parks and recreation trails, whatever it is?
You know, I would think the level of commitment that our staff truly have and the passion that they do have. I truly appreciate individuals that want to get involved because we welcome that. We actually have an Adopt a Road park and trail program that we rolled out, I believe it was 2 years ago now. And we've gotten some involvement, but not as much as what I would like.
So what would it mean to adopt a road or adopt a trail?
So really it's the help with maintaining that space. It's picking up litter, you know, ensuring that if there's things that, you know, individuals are seeing within the park system, reporting that back. But ultimately it's just keeping our parks clean and, you know, obviously a nice area to come and visit.
Okay.
So, but I would say with that, it's also very important that we have groups and we have committees that are also dedicated to our community. So we don't do this on our own. So we have a golf committee. We have a PRCAC.
What's PRCAC?
Yes, it's a mouthful.
You know I'm going to ask.
Yep, Parks, Recreation, Conservation Advisory Commission.
Okay.
So we meet monthly with these groups. They're both advisory groups. They help to shape our overall park system. They give recommendations. My commissioners, they constantly are calling me or sending emails in regards to things that they see out in the field. There's a lot of times where I think perception is not always reality of things. I have seen where, you know, we go in and we pick trash in a park, and I can go back later on in the afternoon and it doesn't look like we even touched it. So I think that perception is that, you know, oh, we don't pick up trash. When we do. I mean, it's unfortunate, but we have, you know, with weather, there's trash cans that may blow over, and, you know, trash ends up, you know, going back all over the park.
Things happen.
Things happen, they do. But what I appreciate about that is it's not just people that, you know, are wanting to complain, but truly have value in our community and wanting to help. So I welcome that, and I encourage that. I really appreciate that. My commissioners do reach out, and they do give me the things that they're seeing out in the community, because we can't be everywhere all the time. So
For sure. So we've talked a bit about the actual trails, the actual parks, the actual structures. What about the recreation programs? What does that look like? What's offered at this in the city of Beloit, and what do people enjoy?
A little bit of everything. I mean, so as Tonya mentioned earlier, we have a Grinnell Senior Center. I define that as the adult Boys and Girls Club. You know, so it provides people 55 and up something to do. Well, people play a lot of cards there. There's puzzle tables. There's the TVs. There is library. We also play pickleball upstairs. I teach a pickleball class. People come in and sew, and then they volunteer. So they volunteer and then donate anything that they have sewn. Like as far as adult recreation, we have volleyball leagues, we have pickleball leagues, we have open gym basketball. Our youth programming, we're looking to grow that a little bit more. As a YMCA, the Rising Tide and the school district are kind of embedded in the community as far as the youth programming. So we're looking to strategically implement new programs. This year we will be introducing a 3-on-3 basketball development league. And the main focus is to actually so the main focus is to actually develop the kids. I was on the last basketball team that went to state, and it's been a while. That was in 2009, and I really want all the kids to experience something like that. So development is something I feel like is the key to to be able to see the basketball team be successful again and have that type of run. So certain things I do believe need to be instilled, at the lower levels. So some of the things that we would like to implement over time is development programs where we creating small-sided games, teaching the kids in stations, and then they go and learn through game-like type of scenarios. So that's how we want to grow the youth programs, and then we have tons of special events such as Dirty Dash. That's one of our main special events. That's our annual mud run for the youth. This year we're looking to create more obstacles, create new obstacles, and make it muddier. And then we're looking at maybe
the more mud, the more fun.
Yeah.
I was at Big Hill Park the other day, and I found random sneakers.
Oh, and you will.
Left throughout, and I thought, I bet I know where these are from.
Yes, yeah. So I mean, that's our biggest one, but we're looking into just seeing how we could grow those type of programs too. Yeah.
So we heard a bit about how different ways that members of the community can provide feedback on plans and trails and building and priorities. How about in recreation? If people in the community have ideas about different recreation programs, where do they give those ideas to?
I would say I'm born and raised in Beloit. I believe lots of people know me, and I know a lot of people. So so some people reach out directly to me through Facebook or through maybe even have my number. Some people reach out, through email. But after our programs end, we always send surveys out, and then we also send just general community surveys through Facebook and different stuff like that. So we try to get as much feedback as we can. We go out, ask questions, to see what people need, and then sometimes we can't do everything, so we look to work with other organizations to be able to create things together. So sometimes we get feedback, from the school. In the sense, right now we actually working on a new program, and we'll be partnering with the school district to create a service for the kids. So just stuff like that. Sometimes we can't do everything. So working together always helps too.
It's nice to have partners in the community, like you say.
Absolutely.
The Boys and Girls Club does some things, YMCA does some things, Rising Tide does some things, and everyone can figure out what's the thing that you offer that makes sense in that whole picture.
That we're not duplicating services.
Right.
Makes sense for sure. Let's talk about something like we talked about parks and things. If you started from start to finish, if you're talking about a new park or a new facility or a new project or something new at a particular park we have, what does that look like from start to finish?
Sure. So first we come up with the idea or the thought of what we are going to do. After we come up with that, it obviously has to go through that capital improvement phase where we get that approval to move forward with the project. A lot of times our projects require a consultant, so we do have to do an RFP, which is a request for proposals. After we choose or select the consultant, we work with the consultant on the overall thought, idea, the scope of services for the specific project and what we're looking to have for an outcome with that project. And then after we start working with the consultant, that's where we get the community involved. We do that with how we were talking earlier about the surveys, and we have public input sessions. The one thing that's unfortunate is I think we do see more individuals participating in surveys than our public input sessions. So I would like to invite the community to public input sessions. We do post those on our website. We do post those on our Facebook page. That's a great way to get involved, to you know, hear your voice, hear what you want to see within the park system. But then ultimately, after we get that feedback back, we work with our consultant to make any kind of changes that we need to make. We also get our Parks, Recreation, Conservation Advisory Commission involved. They look at the concept, they look at the end result of what we're trying to accomplish, and they give recommendations too that they would like to see within specific plans. And then some things do have to go to the City Council for final approval. Not everything, our playgrounds don't. So right now, we just, as of yesterday, got done with our mural and field surveys for playgrounds. We had 2 concepts for each one of those parks, where the residents and visitors could give their opinion in regards to what they wanted to see within those playgrounds. I'll get those survey results back. I'll review those. I'll review those with our consultant. And then May, the third Wednesday, or I'm sorry, the second Wednesday of each month, we have PRCAC that meets. We'll bring those results to PRCAC, talk with them, see if they have anything that they'd like to see changed, and then we'll work with the consultant to get that project going.
There's a lot of steps.
There is, there is, but I will say that the end outcome to the projects is something that is so fulfilling, you know, to see that, you know, we don't do ribbon cuttings for everything that we are doing within our park system. But to be actively out there in the community and see the children playing on the playground, seeing the grandparents or the parents taking the pictures, like, to me, that's really what it's all about. It's about leaving the community better than what it was left with when I, you know, first originally, you know, was here.
So talk a bit about how you got into this line of work, if you don't mind. How did you always know you wanted to work in Parks and Rec? Did you know, start in it? Did you move in other fields and make your way over? How did you both? I'd love to hear from both of you how you found your way here.
Sure.
Oh, okay. I'll go. I've been an athlete all my life, so I just knew I wanted to work with the kids first and foremost. Originally, I wanted to be a sports director growing up, and I've have that is something that I actually achieved. You know, and as I look to, you know, serve the youth, you know, I just gained more and more experience getting to know people, and I just get, I have a lot of passion for, you know, providing services for others, you know, but it's through, you know, through the athletic side of things, or just providing, you know, things that get people moving or doing things. So I'm a person that started out in just the traditional sports world, and over time I then bled into the non-traditionals. I golf, I snowboard. I mean, just the other day, me and my kids was out in the yard with a tennis racket. You know, just trying a whole bunch of stuff. So just through that, you know, I get a lot of feedback, you know, from other people, seeing what they like to do, and you just want to provide those services. So I just like serving the community. So, you know, that's.
You found the right job.
Oh, right. For sure. Yes. Yeah. I do believe I'm in the right place. So.
Wonderful. And you?
I'm going to kind of echo that. You know, just that being that public servant. Back in 2010, I started with the Rockford Park District, where they really instilled a lot of core values into me and my leadership as growing and being mentored through the park system. And I would say really it comes down to their mission of helping people enjoy life. I just carried that with me throughout my career. It's always about making individuals excited to be out and recreating, you know, just being healthy and taking care of themselves, because unfortunately, again, with the day in which we live, there's a lot of mental illness that is going around. So it's very important to me that, you know, I can extend a helping hand to individuals in need and getting them out, getting their mindset, you know, set correctly on wanting to be here and it's just really important to me that, we're providing that service to individuals that truly do need it in these days in which we live.
Sure. So what's one upcoming thing that you're excited about in the Parks and Rec space?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. I'll go first.
You can both go.
Go ahead.
I'd love to hear from both of you.
Yeah. So
Go ahead.
my exciting thing is obviously the pool feasibility study. So as we kind of talk through about the aging infant structure, that is one project, larger project that we have that we are starting to get the wheels moving on. So obviously we're working with a consultant with the pool feasibility study. We just received our survey results back from that, which was super exciting. We had hundreds upon hundreds of responses to that.
I was one of them.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yep.
So this is the exciting part, is we take those survey results back, we work with our consultant, and then the consultant really tries to form the concepts off of what the community wants to see, what our leadership team wants to see, and then once those concepts get developed, we get to bring those back to the community and push them back out and say, what do you think?
Yep.
What are some things that you're seeing that that aren't in the concept that we should possibly consider, so we can make tweaks? Or if it's something where it'd be great if it was always perfect the first time around, but we never see that,
Yep.
right? I mean, there's always going to be something that we can do a little bit better. But then after we get that community feedback, then we'll go back to the consultant. We'll ultimately have to go to city council for this project. We'll do a presentation for the recommendations that we have for that project, and then ultimately it will be up to city council to determine if we'll move forward with that project.
That makes sense.
So
It's exciting.
yes, very exciting.
And how about you, Robert?
Well, first and foremost, the golf course just opened.
Okay.
And so I'm really excited about that. I love playing golf. I like being in the clubhouse, meeting new people. So we have our youth golf camp that'll be starting, and people are already registering. So that's pretty good. So yeah, that's my main thing. And the other one would be that 3x3 development basketball league. Like I said, I have a passion for that. As I'm looking to see the kids grow and develop. I'm excited to present a new concept to the city of Beloit. Instead of your traditional one practice, one game, you kind of I mean, it's a real focus on development. So looking to get the right people involved, to make sure I do think that's a key component to making this be a successful program. I need the right people to be involved, but I do think it'll be an asset to the community. So.
And I do want to quickly go back to the golf course, because another exciting thing that we did this year is we purchased 55 lithium-ion golf carts. So our lease was up. We did some research in regards to what made the most sense for the city in regards to if we went with gas, if we did lithium-ion batteries, or if we did lead-acid batteries. And overall, it was in the city's best choice to do the lithium-ion. We also increased our cart size from 50 to 55 carts, so I encourage the community to come out and take them for a spin on the golf course.
Sounds good. So one last question. I imagine coming into summer, there will be lots of seasonal jobs in Parks and Rec. What would you like the community to know? What kinds of jobs? Who are you looking for? What kinds of skills and abilities and feelings would you like people to know is available for work this summer?
Sure.
Yes, we have pool cashiers, both for the admission side and the concession side. Same thing, cashiers over at the lagoon, and the golf course attendants, so people that would typically be driving the golf carts. And then we have summer camp counselor positions that'll be available. Essentially, we'll be leading kids through activities, arts and crafts, different recreational activities. And then we have the athletic site supervisor position, in which they'll be overseeing the pickleball league and adult basketball open gym. So lots of opportunity. I mean, people that we're looking for. First and foremost, we want people that want to come to work every day. People that
Coming
like
to work
money.
every day, it's an important
Yes.
number one, right?
People that have good customer service skills. People that's willing to talk to other people, give out the correct information, just be engaging.
Yep.
So.
And if someone's worried they've never been a cashier before or something, do you provide the training that they would need?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, and we also do have equipment operator positions under horticulture and parks, and that is, as we've kind of talked through about the need for our park system. That's where we struggle on an annual basis. Historically, I think we've seen a decline in filling those positions. I think there's a lot of positions out there that are available, and this is more of a hands-on, being out in the field.
Yeah, really great for people who love being outside and working with their hands.
Absolutely, absolutely. But we do have a lot of positions there, and if we could get those positions filled, I think our park system, we'd be headed in the right direction. But what we're seeing is our full-time staff, which we only have 5 full-time parks equipment operators, and like how I was saying, we have 39 parks. That doesn't include our other facilities and our trails and things like that. But it's a lot of upkeep for them. So instead of being able to focus on larger projects within our park system, they're just mowing parks, because that's all that they
just
can
mowing
maintain.
all day long.
It's trash pickup. That's the number one priority is trash pickup and then mowing. But if we can get positions filled where we can get operators in and get them properly trained on how to mow, how to trim, then that frees up our full-time staff to focus on the larger projects at hand.
Yeah, for sure. So people who want to apply should just check out the city website, I guess.
That is correct.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. It's been wonderful to hear about Parks and Rec in the city of Beloit.
Thank you.
Today we've been joined by Tonya Johann and Robert Douglas from the City of Beloit's Parks and Recreation Department. Welcome back to Behind Beloit. Our next guest today is Kim Zarling. Coach Zarling is the Associate Director of Athletics and the softball head coach at Beloit College. She has been with Buccaneer softball team since 2008. Welcome, Coach Zarling.
Thanks for having me today.
You're
Excited to be here.
It's fun to be here. So let's start with your story. How did you get into coaching? How did you get into coaching softball? And what experience sort of happened in your life to bring you here today?
Well, that could be a long story, but I'll try to keep it a little short. I played softball growing up. It was, a thing that I got involved with pretty young. And it was, back in the day, it was like 4-H ball and church ball. And then got into high school ball. I played in high school and college and really enjoyed the sport. Didn't think it was going to be my first kind of career profession. I actually wanted to be a veterinarian to start life out. I went to vet school for a couple of years at the University of Minnesota and decided I really needed to be around people more than animals. So I had an opportunity to be a graduate assistant at Minnesota State Mankato as a softball coach, and got my master's there. And after I got done, the head coach said, "Hey, you would really be good at doing this for a job." And so I just started applying, and landed a first head coaching job at the University of South Dakota right out of grad school. Spent 12 years out there. Really kind of fun opportunity to be a head coach out there, Division II, where you could actually use some scholarships and stuff. But they decided they wanted to reclassify to Division I, and I was a Division III product, where I think it's a great balance of student and athlete. And you can kind of be everything you want to be. At Division II and Division I, you kind of get to be controlled as an athlete and limited in your academic opportunities. So I started looking, and I'm a Wisconsin native, so I looked at Beloit, and they had a great opening, and I thought the time was right for me. So I came back to Beloit in 2008, and really loved my time here so far.
Wonderful. It's good to hear how you sort of think about the Division I versus Division III and landing at the kind of program that makes sense for you. So let's talk about Beloit softball program. When you think about it at its best, what does that look like for our student athletes on the field and off?
Well, I just think athletics really kind of helps develop character, and it gives you a lot of life lessons and kind of a team camaraderie. I think for us, it's all about we talk about family a lot. It's a great group of young ladies working together to accomplish a goal. It's something they're passionate about. They put a lot of energy and time into it, really with nothing to give back to them other than the opportunity to go out and compete on the field together. So, at our best, I think, we're working together, we're supporting each other, and really developing lifelong skills. And hopefully at the end of the day, we're winning some games and we're competing every time we go out.
Yeah, really fun. I mean, people wouldn't still be playing at the college level if they didn't really love playing.
No, especially Division III, because there's choices of what you want to do with your time while you're in college. And to put in that 20 hours plus a week, on the practice field, you're in the weight room, you're sacrificing kind of weekends to travel. You really got to love it, and I think that some people don't have that passion, and that's what we're looking for in the people we recruit and have in our program.
So talk about that a bit. I know that one thing that coaches spend a fair bit of time doing is welcoming new players to the team.
Yeah, that's a never-ending process. We're always looking for talented players who meet the kind of what we're looking for in our team in terms of our team culture, team chemistry type of players. But we also have to look for the student athlete who is good at balancing both things. Great in the classroom. Sometimes we're looking for some leadership skills. In our sport, we have to look at a lot of different intangibles. We're looking for a pitcher at times who can handle the pressure of being on the mound. We're looking for maybe a pinch hitter who can come off the bench late to give us the clutch hit. So you're looking for a variety of types of skill sets, speed, power, range, all those things. So we try to start looking local as best we can, and then from there building out. Our team is a combination of young ladies from the Wisconsin, Illinois area, but then we have the opportunity at Beloit to bring people from all over the country. We've had Alaska, California, Texas, Oklahoma, North Carolina, New Hampshire, so it's kind of a fun thing. I don't get to go out and see all of them in the recruiting process, but hopefully I get a chance to see a lot of local ones in the summer, build relationships, share what Beloit's all about from an academic and an athletic perspective, and then try to get them here to see what we are. And once they see us, a lot of them choose that this is a place that they want to be. And so, like I said, it's never ending because every year you're having to replace the kids that are graduating. You're really hoping you keep everybody you start with in the program for 4 years. But honestly, that doesn't always happen. You usually have a little bit of loss there. So
someone decides that they want to focus on other things.
Something else, or they find out they have an injury, different things. So. But it's fun. I think you get to meet a lot of families. You get to interact with them and get to know them early in the process.
So students from Wisconsin and Illinois, I can sort of see how you find out about them. They find out about Beloit. Talk to me about the students from Alaska or Texas or from Delaware. How do you reach out to them? Do they reach out to you? How does that work?
A lot of different pathways. I think through alumni sometimes. Maybe their parent went to school here. Sometimes they have a counselor or somebody in their school who has heard about Beloit for some reason, and they reach to Beloit from an academic perspective and then say, hey, I'm really interested in softball, or I've done this my whole life, I'd like to continue. So those pathways are good. There is recruiting services out there that we look at times to see who has an interest in us, and then we kind of follow these individuals, and then hopefully they reach back and we know more about them. Also try to go to big showcases if I can.
So what's a showcase?
So it's where they don't usually go as a team, they go as individuals, and then they get put on teams, and then they compete together on a weekend.
So sort of like a tournament, but it's just a grab bag of whoever shows up.
Grab bag of whoever. You might have the top 250 kids in the area go. Wisconsin does a great one over in the Milwaukee area. And there's going to be kids from a 5-state area, and they have to go to smaller showcases to like apply and try out to go to this big one.
Wow.
So I do the Wisconsin, I do Illinois, I try to hit that Minnesota, St. Louis, Colorado are probably the footprint of where I go to see them in person if I can. Word of mouth is big, though. I mean, a lot of kids reach to us because of academics, and then hopefully we can follow back that way.
That's wonderful. So you mentioned one of the things that you're hoping students find to be a good fit when they look at Beloit College's culture. Can you talk a bit about the culture of your team, and what is that? How would you describe the culture you build on the team? How do you enforce it every day? What does it look like?
I think culture just it sort of develops. It evolves with the type of people you have. I think it's about being true to yourself. I think it's about being, in our sport, it's a team player, and being able to be accountable to each other. And you have to be able to sacrifice at times for the good of the program. So those are things we're trying to instill and build. I don't think we can enforce it so much. It's almost like it has to kind of evolve over time. And when you're recruiting, you have to try to find people who have those character sets that are going to fit into that. I think if you try to bring somebody who's a kind of an outlier and kind of force them into that mold, it doesn't work. So trying to learn about them, see how they handle themselves in pressure situations in the game. If you can watch them, like if they strike out, what do they do with their bat? Do they throw their bat? Or are they a good teammate and put their bat back? And do they support each other when they're taken out of the game? So looking for some of those kind of intangibles is even more important than seeing what skill sets they have in terms of softball specific stuff. It's about that kind of person they are behind the scenes. Look at a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So when a player arrives on campus, they're a new student athlete at Beloit College and they're joining your team, what does development look like? How do you help them improve technically and mentally over 4 years, both in softball and outside of softball?
I think we spend a lot of time together. I mean, in softball, we get to have a fall non-traditional season, which really is a good time to bring the new players into the mold and kind of show them what the program's all about, kind of how we structure things, get to see what our expectations are, and kind of build that expectations and goals for the year for them as an individual and collectively as a team. You know, but that's the time on the field. There's also time where, you know, they're in the weight room. Great, this year we have a new strength coach that's been, you know, for a year now, so I still try to go in there when she's in there to see what kind of things she's instilling in them in there. And then we usually have a weekly or every other week meeting with them that deals with kind of academic life. How do you acclimate to Beloit, especially as a first year, like you said? You know, how is the transition being away from home? You know, are you figuring out how to manage your time? You know, what are you doing between classes now when you have 2 hours off, where in high school you went back to back? So having those conversations and trying to help them realize that there's a lot of people here that will support them, but how to make those connections is really critical to me. So we have those meetings, and those are not just for first year, they're for everybody, and we do that all year long. I think it really helps do some checks and balances about what's going on in life, when are the kind of pressure situations in the classroom coming. It might not just be midterms and finals, there might be a mid-semester kind of thing that's going on, or they might be struggling with something else that we don't know about. So I think just kind of building those relationships, helping them figure out the connections. We try to do a lot too with our alumni. We try to connect a new player early on with somebody who was in their major or maybe from their area, so they have more than just me to outreach to. We also do kind of big buddies in the program, so you know, a freshman gets paired with an upperclassman, and they try to do weekly check-ins too. So we try to give them a lot of kind of support pieces that they can put together, so hopefully they can figure out how to navigate this thing called life, you know, and they have to learn how to do a little bit on their own, but we want to give them the tools to figure out how to do that.
That makes a lot of sense. So thinking about a softball season, we're in season right now, fans who show up, they see the game, but they don't see all the preparation that goes on behind the scenes, whether it's with the players or the uniforms or the food or the field or whatever else. So what goes on in a typical week in terms of planning, practicing, scouting, player man, all the things?
Oh, I think you hit a lot of it. You know, last week was a tough week. We had a home doubleheader Saturday, Sunday, but you know, Mother Nature decided to rain on us when we didn't have the tarp on. So there's a lot of work on the field to get that prepped and ready. You know, trying to navigate practices inside or out depending on the weather. You know, we try to practice every afternoon for 2 to 2.5 hours depending on where we're at day before game or 2 days before. You know, we try to do some scouting. You know, it's a little different than some sports where there's a lot of film scouting. Ours is a little bit of film nowadays, but a lot of looking at stats, trying to figure out what they did against common opponents in previous games, especially from a pitching perspective. You know, and then like you said, you know, making sure we've got meals prepped and ready to go for travel away games, and so it's never ending. And then on top of that, you're still trying to recruit the next year's class and making sure you know, academics are getting taken care of.
So talk about that with the academics and the playing. It's Division III, Beloit College is Division III sports. What does that mean in terms of the balance of students' time as athletes and times as students, and how do you help players manage those academics, the athletics, and everything else on their plate?
You know, every sport's different. I think we've been trying to do a really good job of managing our schedule when we set the schedule at the beginning, you know, over the summer, and like we're setting it now for next year, to limit our scheduled weekday games. That's kind of critical, so that we can try to make sure that first they're going to be in the classroom as often as they can be, and not having to miss that, because I think that's the most important part of the academic life, is being in the classroom and learning from the teacher firsthand, and not just getting the notes from somebody else. But sometimes we get forced to be, you know, missing a class, like we were supposed to be playing today, we'll miss a class. You know, then making sure we're having those conversations with faculty early on about how we're going to handle that, how do we do those makeups. You know, and then when something gets rained out like today, making sure they're prepared to go to class, because they were thinking, oh, I didn't have to have my homework done for Tuesday because I'm not going to be there. Well, now you're there.
You're going to be there. Yep.
So just making sure we're having those good conversations and teaching them how to be ready and deal with adversity and maybe changes and things, which really happens in life too, all the time. You know, we talk about dealing with the controllables a lot. You know, what can we control and how can we be prepared when there's other things like weather and things come up that aren't controllables? How do we pivot? And that's a big part of this life lesson for us, is how do we pivot and be ready?
Yeah, really great things that you can learn from sports. Yeah. What's one thing that fans or students might not realize about Beloit softball that you wish more people knew?
I think that we have a really talented group of young ladies. You know, if you look at it, some people look at us on paper and say, hey, your record is such and such, you maybe haven't been successful. But I think it's a pretty competitive thing that you might, if you come out, you can really see the passion they have, the energy they put in it, how athletic they really are, and just who they are as people. I think, you know, sometimes, you know, we overlook what these young ladies are doing, and the time that they're committed to something, and how much they care about each other and the program and the school.
That's really wonderful to hear. Thank you for joining us today, Kim.
Thanks so much.
It's been great to hear about the softball program at Beloit College.
Thanks so much.
We've been joined by Kim Zarling. Coach Zarling is the Associate Director of Athletics and Softball Head Coach at Beloit College. She's been with Buccaneer Softball since 2008.